Shabbat Shalom. Well, we're going to try something a little different today. As before we begin the Barchu, I thought it would be interesting for us to learn together the Hebrew of the Barchu. And I realize there are people here who are Hebrew experts, Hebrew scholars. And so for you, this will just be fun and refreshing and easy. For others, you're looking at these letters, these Hebrew letters, and it just looks like hieroglyphics, right? Gobbledygook. Well, I don't want that anymore. I want this to come into focus for all of us as we worship the Lord, and even through these Hebrew blessings. Wouldn't it be wonderful for us to read the Hebrew as we're saying these words? So as we begin each service with the Barchu as our call to worship, I thought what better way to begin our Hebrew lessons than learning the Barchu. Now this might take a while. I'm going to start with one word, and that's a lot, okay? Which includes several letters. So let's see if we can get through this, and it doesn't take all day. But the first word we want to learn today to say as we read it in Hebrew is Barchu. Can we have the first slide? There it is. Barchu. Easy, right? Well, let's go through it a little bit. Just so you know, the word Barchu isn't... well, let me put it this way. Every Hebrew word that we look at has a root to it, what's called a shoresh. That means root in Hebrew. And so the root of Barchu is those first three letters, barach. In fact, you'll see the word barach in that form means to bless. But when you see the word Barchu, it's conjugated or formulated as a second person imperative. You're being told, hey, you, bless, right? That's what we're being told. So that's what the word means. That's what it's communicating. Let's go through each letter and see if we can learn this, all right? The first letter in Barchu is bet. Can you all say bet? Bet. I bet you did a really good job. Go. And the Hebrew letter bet has the sound of B, right? As in boy. So you see that shape of a letter, and you know that it's B. It's bet. If you don't remember the name of the letter, at least remember the sound of the letter B. And you see that without the dot in the middle, that little dot is called a dagesh. Without the dagesh, the bet sounds like a V. V is in Victor. So that becomes you could say a vet. It's still the Hebrew letter bet, but without the dot, it sounds like V. All right, so we all got the first letter. What is that first letter? Bet. Oh, even without seeing it. Well done. The second letter here is resh. Can you say resh? Resh. And resh is the Hebrew letter that has the sound of R, right? If you were really living in Israel, you'd realize it was a little bit further back in your throat, resh, but not too far back, or you sound more French than anything else. But resh is the Hebrew letter for R. So when you see that letter, that shape, it's a little curved hook. It's the R sound. Can you say, see that letter and read the word resh? Resh. Resh. So far we have bet, resh. The last letter in the word is kaf. This comes in different forms. This might get confusing. The first part of it looks like a hand, right? You're holding your hand like a C, right? Kind of a backward C. And that's because the Hebrew letter kaf, that word means palm of a hand. And so without the dot in it, it has a ch sound. Can you all say ch? Okay, you haven't had enough bagels for breakfast yet to get the ch sound well, but that's the ch as in Bach, okay, sort of the ch. So we sometimes use a ch with either a line in it or without a line, but when you see a ch in a Hebrew word, it's not ch, okay, it's ch. So anytime you're reading something with a ch, think probably a ch sound. With the dagesh, this time a kaf goes from a ch to a k. It hardens. The dagesh kind of hardens the letter. So with the dot, it would be a k. And at the end of a word, it's what looks like almost like a timeout there. A final kaf, a kaf sofit, is how it looks at the end of any word. And we'll see that in some of the words we're using in the Barchu. But for now, we're going to use the ch, the one without the dot in it. And lastly, we do have a few vowels to deal with. They aren't in the original. Well, this one is actually. It's a vav. This has the sound, this letter, vav, has the sound of V. Again, as in Victor, like the vet did. But when you see a dot in or around the vav, it changes it depending on where it is in the word, to be more of a vowel. And in this case, you see the dot in the middle. I didn't show you, sometimes the vav has a dot up on top, okay? And that's O sound, but when you put the dot in the middle, pretend the dot is your hand, right? And you put it on top of your head, oh. But when you put it in the middle, you go, ooh, okay? That's the ooh sound, and that's the vav we have today, sometimes called a shuruk, all right? Ooh as in ufta. I wanted to communicate that to any Scandinavians here. All right, and lastly, we have a couple other vowels. Pay no attention to the dotted circle. That just represents where you would see a Hebrew letter, a consonant. But below the letters, we have this sound, which is a patach and a kamatz. They both have the sound of ah. Can you say ah? Ah, it sounds so nice. As in father, all right? So when you see the ah. Now let's look at the word again and see where all these letters come into play. Barchu, B, the b, the ah, the resh, the kaf, and the u. In fact, I've broken it into two parts because what you have is two syllables. Bar. Oh, I didn't mention the last vowel, so to speak, is the shava, those two little dots. That just means it's silent. Okay, there it is. It means it makes no sound at all. Sometimes it makes a little sound. So if it's at the beginning of the word, if it was under a bet, it would go b. But if it's at the end of the syllable, like it is in our next word bar, then it just kind of ends the syllable, bar, and then you start the next sound. That's why we have bar. Can we all read that and say bar?
Bar.
And the next part of the word is hu. And together?
Barchu.
All right, so now when we see the Hebrew word, you can read it, right? We'll practice this, and we're going to turn this now to the worship team to lead us in the Barchu.